Starting a new league can be the most fun and exciting time in Path of Exile, but many people have trouble starting out and sometimes miss the fun and profit potential of reaching endgame on the first day of a new league. In this video, I'll talk about a build that is both reliably fast in reaching endgame as well as able to take on all of the game's content, so you can engage in everything the league has to offer right from the beginning and potentially make tons of exalts in the process. I personally am able to consistently get to maps from fresh with no leveling gear in less than 6 hours with this build, and while I realize some people can do it much faster, I'm no racer, so you can do it too. Hello Exiles, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and welcome to my Path of Exile League Starter Guide for the Totem Hierophant. A Path of Building link for this build template will be in the description below. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of my future Path of Exile videos. Now let's get into the good stuff. So why totems and why Hierophant? Totems are extremely versatile and safe, as well as very gear independent with one exception, which I'll talk about later. They allow you to both clear packs that you've left in the dust, as well as position during a boss fight to avoid being hit. Totems offer a large variety of skills as well, with the use of the spell totem support, which can turn nearly any spell into a totem and customize your character for whatever your goals may be, or whatever kind of build you want to do. I've personally tested Holy Flame Totem, Arc Totem, Ball Lightning Totem, Winter Orb Totem, and Freezing Pulse Totem, but your options are not remotely limited to those. As far as Hierophant goes, it provides great utility as well as offensive and defensive options for your totems. You can generate both power and endurance charges with incredible ease, gain significant totem placement speed and duration for ease of use, and get a large amount of mana and mana regeneration, which can synergize extremely well with Mind Over Matter for that extra defensive layer. The skill tree is fairly simple and will work with nearly every totem build with some minor variations. You might have to tweak things. You'll travel through the Templar's elemental nodes down to the life, and then over to Light of Divinity and Holy Dominion. You then go through Devotion up to Ancestral Bond for the +1 max totem. From there you move over to the Witch area, pick up Quick Recovery on the way. I would recommend waiting to pick up Mind Over Matter until you have enough mana and mana regeneration to no longer be spamming your mana potions when you place your totems. If you're running supports that require dex, head over to the Shadow Tree and fill out the notables over there going through the crit. Then head through the Witch spell crit and grab Cruel Preparation and Deep Thoughts. You can generally grab Mind Over Matter around this point. To improve your mana pool and get the other great bonuses they grant you, you should then get Mystic Bulwark and Prodigal Perfection. Finally, you can start grabbing all the crit and utility and totem nodes you missed along the way. Nimbleness as well is great because cast speed is very nice to have in this build as totems get reduced cast speed, so you want a little bit more of that. The shown tree is for a lightning based totem build such as Arc or Ball Lightning, but it can be slightly modified to fit the needs of any other totem build and is a very workable template with those modifications. Next up is gearing. The build isn't particularly gear dependent with the exception of a +1 maximum totem shield, which can be gotten from a Shaper shield of item level 70 or higher. Before that, just dual wield wands or scepters, looking for stats like added flat damage to spells, spell damage, cast speed, spell crit, and to a lesser extent mana. Later, you might want to get a 6-link Soul Mantle to get a functional 7-link setup, but that'll require you to get Curse Immunity through either the very expensive Prophecy item, Itsiri's Reflection, or through double Kikazaru rings and the Sanctum of Thoughts notable on the tree, which happens to be very close to where we path anyway. Before that though, you can just aim for gear with life, resists, and mana so that you have a nice effective health pool and maxed resists. Preferably maxed to over 115% so that you can do elemental weakness maps, although endurance charges can make up for some of that, so you may not have to reach quite that level. Now on to leveling. This will be a step-by-step guide through the early game, but late game is mostly just going as fast as you can once you have everything set up. I've mentioned this in other videos, but basically we want to make sure we're constantly moving and not picking up things that we don't need. Always make sure you're using your movement skills and Quicksilver Flask to constantly push ahead. Vendor as little as possible and don't visit your stash unless your inventory is nearly full. Good inventory management is extremely important in leveling quickly in a new league. Also, before we start, you should know that we need a certain number of currency items for an important vendor recipe that we'll be doing at level 20, along with some skill gems that we'll be needing to buy. You can get transmutes by selling unidentified items and alterations by selling identified magic and rare items. The rest of the currency we'll need to find. The necessary currency is 3 or 4 transmutation orbs, depending on which totems you're doing, 3 alteration orbs, 2 resistance rings, which will depend on what kind of totem we're going to go for. We need topaz for lightning, sapphire for cold, and ruby for fire. You can also make the resistance rings by selling an iron ring with skill gems. Just buy one of the 1 wisdom scroll ones from the vendor if you want to do this. Lastly, you'll need 2 alchemy or 2 essence or 1 of each. The vendor recipe will require 2 wands or 2 scepters that are magic, so you can just transmute white ones for this. Then you want to use the alchemies or essences on the 2 resist rings so that they're rare. Finally, you'll trade the rare rings and magic wands or scepters along with 2 alteration orbs to the vendor. This will give you a tier 6 flat damage to spell rolls on each of them, which will substantially increase your damage and can be used through most of the rest of the game, even if you get unlucky and don't find better wands or scepters. Starting out in Act 1, you'll have 2 options to start from. You can start Scion and get an Onslaught gem, or you can get straight into your Templar. We would only be using Onslaught for the first 20 levels or so, since we're rushing to double totems, and totems can't activate Onslaught. If you wish to transition to totems later, maybe after your first Ascendancy or so, you should grab this for sure, and make sure that you just level with Stormbrand or Orb of Storms with it connected in. If you do start Scion, make sure you check the vendor for move speed boots and stash everything including flasks and such. This can be valuable currency that you'll need, and then you can get started on your Templar. For your first quest reward, you'll want to just take Purifying Flame, which is fine for clearing early stuff, or you can buy Freezing Pulse or Stormblast Mine from the vendor for a Wisdom Scroll. Of course, if you're going Freezing Pulse totems, you'll want to pick that up either way. Next, from the Medicine Chest quest, you'll pick up Infused Channeling for your Holy Flame totem, which you'll be using for quite some time for every totem build except maybe Arc, and Arcane Surge to link with your move skill. For breaking some eggs, you want to get Holy Flame totem and Frostblink. Once you've linked your Frostblink with Arcane Surge and your Holy Flame totem with Infused Channeling, you can clear mobs by using Frostblink to damage enemies and leaving a Holy Flame totem behind to clear them out. Use this combo to clear your way through the act while adding in skills you picked up first to help with Brutus. For reaching the prison, pick up Added Lightning. You can also get Added Fire instead if you have a red-red-blue link for Holy Flame totem. You'll also want to pick up Spell totem from the vendor for a transmute unless you plan on sticking with Holy Flame totem for the whole character. After Brutus, pick up Flame Dash and swap it over for Frostblink. It does less damage, but the charges make it more mobile. Once you get to Merveil's Cave, pick up Searing Bond to help with Searing Target, or Arc if you're going to go with Arc totems. If so, you can just start using Arc with Spell Totem and Added Lightning from here. In Act 2, after killing Fidelitas, you can take Herald of Thunder, unless you're just going to stay Holy Flame Totem to the end, in which case you can take Herald of Ash. From Weaver reward, pick up Controlled Destruction and replace Added Lightning with it. You'll be helping Alira for the Great Crit Multi and Mana Regen, along with the free Resists. At level 20 around Northern Forest, you'll want to do the wand crafts I mentioned earlier, and this should boost your damage by quite a lot. Everything should feel really smooth from here. In Act 3, after Crematorium, you should get Zealotry or Wrath, depending on your final totem build will be, as well as buying an appropriate curse for your build from the vendor. If you're going either Winter Orb or Ball Lightning totem, you'll be able to pick that up after killing Gravitius. You won't want to use Winter Orb until you get Greater Multiple Projectiles from Act 4 though. For Ball Lightning, you may want to wait until after you get Slower Projectiles from the Library quest. After beating Piety, you should do the Library quest. You may need some Chance Orbs depending on the build to get certain gems. You'll certainly want Second Wind for your Flame Dash, adding cooldown and an additional charge. Lightning Totem builds can grab Lightning Penetration as a reward, and cold builds will probably want to pick up Hypothermia here. Maybe Cold Penetration as well. After beating Act 3, I personally like to do Desheret's Banner quest to get the Stone or Flame Golem before doing Lab, but you can do it whenever you feel comfortable. Stone Golem helps mitigate the traps a bit with its regen, so if you suck at Lab like I do, pick that up. Otherwise, you can grab Flame Golem to improve your DPS. From your Ascendancy, you'll of course want to pick Hierophant and get Pursuit of Faith, which will substantially improve your power and utility with totems. If you decided to level using some non-totem build and didn't pick up Ancestral Bond yet, this is a good time to pick that up and make sure you make the full switch to totems. After beating Duresso and Calm, pick up Multi-Totem to level in your extra slot. You may or may not end up using it later. It isn't necessary, but it can be helpful with certain totem setups. If you are doing Winter Orb totems, you can pick up Greater Multiple Projectiles now and start using that as your main totem. From here on out, there isn't too much you need to do. If you have your 4 links set up, You just want to upgrade gear where you can and level as fast as you can and move through the story. The only note I have is that if you are going Freezing Pulse totems, you should pick up a Threshold Jewel in Act 5 and put a search out on the trade site for a second one. And then you want to grab 2 jewel slots near Intelligence as soon as possible to get those going. Other than that, make sure you pick up Ritual of Awakening as your second Ascendancy at the beginning of Act 8, and then Conviction of Power either before or after beating Act 10 Kitava. Divine Guidance will be the last Ascendancy you'll get from Uberlab. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your League Starter is going to be in the comment section below. While the newer YouTube Studio makes it harder for me to reply to everything, I do read all the comments. You can also join our Discord servers using the link in the description below to chat about Path of Exile or just hang out and chill. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye!